Hey everyone, Marshall Couch here. I want to take some time to talk about XML. Particularly, I want to talk about XML and how we can use it for configuration files in Automation Anywhere. A configuration file makes it very easy for us to change multiple variables from run to run of our automation. It'll make it very easy for us to switch which environment or which accounts we're using for automation. It allows us to change multiple variables at a time. What we're going to do today is use this configuration account to change a single value, and then that will change where we log our data to and what we log to that file. And we're just going to use this environment number here to basically choose, do we want to log it as a testing or production? So this is very useful in testing and production situations where you want to test your automation maybe with a particular account in a particular environment, but then whenever you actually use it, you want to use a different account and a different environment, and maybe you want to log your files somewhere different. What we're going to do is we're going to read out all this information from this XML file depending on what we're doing. If you're unfamiliar with XML, a great resource for you to check out is w3schools.com. There they have some examples of XML documents and what they mean, and they also tell you how to interact with them, which is kind of what we're going to be using today to read data out. So essentially, to walk over this XML file, we have a configuration node, and underneath that configuration node, we have environment, testing, and production. Underneath our production and testing nodes, we have log to file, or log file path, and text to log. And these are the values that are associated with those nodes. So because we have the same nodes for production and testing, we can easily switch between the two environments and say, do I want the testing nodes or do I want the production nodes? Let's head to Automation Anywhere and build this out. You'll notice over here on my right, I already have some variables set up for myself. I've got my environment, which is going to come from that environment node. I also have my environment path, which I will use to store the path from configuration to testing or configuration to production. And then I also have my log file location, which I'm going to read from my configuration file. And I'm also going to read my text to log from my configuration file. So if you want, you can pause the video and get those variables set up. What we're going to do is we are going to scroll down to the XML logic, and we are going to start an XML session. I'm just going to drag this in. Now I need to give it the file path to my XML file. So I'm going to click these three dots here and navigate and choose my XML file. I'm going to go ahead and click open and click save. Now that I've got my XML session started, I'm going to go ahead and drag in the end XML session because I will want to end that at some point. So notice that XML start and end does not automatically do that for you. You'll want to drag in your XML end session manually. Now what we want to do is we want to actually read the nodes so that we know what's going on. So I want to get this one out of this node. To do that, I'm going to give it the path of configuration and environment. So let's go ahead and find our get nodes or get node. I'm going to drag that in right after my start session. And I'm going to give it the XPath expression of /configuration/environment. And we're going to assign that to environment. And let's save. Now we have our environment value. Now what we need to do is choose which environment path do we want to use, that production or testing path. To do that, we'll use a simple if statement. So scroll up to if and choose if variable. So we're going to use this variable here. I'm going to drag that right after this. And now what I'm going to do is edit. the variable we want to use here is environment. So we'll say if the environment is equal to 1, then we're going to say that our environment path is going to be our testing path. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag in my else, because we'll want it to be the production path if it's not the testing path. So if it's equal to 1, it'll be testing. If it's not equal to 1, then it'll be equal to our production path. So I'm going to go down to variable operation, drag that in under my if, and here my environment path is going to be configuration testing. And I do need a / at the beginning. So it's going to be / configuration / testing. And that will be my path. Now I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this down at my else. And then I'm going to edit it and change it to configuration / production. Now what we can do is we can get those other variables underneath testing and production. We want the log file path and the text that we're going to log. To do that, we get nodes. We're going to do get nodes underneath our if. And here what we're going to do is we're going to use a variable. So this is where we're going to say environment path, and then we'll say /, and then here we will say the log file location, and then we will assign that to our log file location variable. So in here it's called log file path, so we will want to be sure that we call it that here. So log file location, where we typed in, will actually be log file path. Sorry, my variable is not named the same thing as my node in my XML path. So be sure that you put the variable and then you put a / because if you followed me, be sure to put a / here. If you did put a / at the end of it in your variable operation, you don't need it here. But the key thing is we want it to be / configuration / whatever the environment is going to be, production or testing, and then we want a / and then log file path. So we can go ahead and save that. And now we can duplicate this and edit it, and it will become our text to log. So here I'll just change the log file path to text to log. Click the drop down here, choose text to log. Let's double check and make sure it's called text to log in my XML, so I'm good there. So let's minimize that, save this. Now we actually want to use those variables that we just got out of our configuration file. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit and grab log to file and put this at the very end of my code. I'm going to put the variable that I use for log file location. And then for my text, I'm going to put my text to log here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's see if that worked for us. I'm going to open up this folder. Here is where we're going to actually save those log files. I'm going to save this automation. I'm going to go ahead and click run. And let's go see what happened. So here it wrote to our testing log. So it grabbed this environment because it's 1. It used the testing information here. So it used this log file path and it used this text to log. So if we click into that, we can see this is our testing log. Now if I come in here and change this to be a 2, which means it'll now use the production information. I'm going to run that. So I didn't have to change my automation. All I had to do was change my configuration. And you can see we now have a production log that has our production log text. This is how you can use XML and RPA to configure your bots to run in particular situations under different environments. You don't have to have this value here in your configuration file. What you could do is you could say, depending on what control room I am connected to, or depending on what bot runner or who is using me, use different values. Or you could even say if it's running at particular times. If it runs in the day, run with these certain set of parameters. If you run at night, run with a different set of parameters. With configuration, the sky is really the limit. Hope you find this useful. Thanks for watching.